If you read the title, you know that today we are here to discuss someone very dangerous, crooked, and corrupt, and that guy is Julius Malema. Julius Malema, born 3 March 1981, is a South African politician who is a member of parliament and the leader of the Economic Freedom Fighters, also known as EFF, a left-wing party which he founded in 2013. He was formerly the president of the African National Congress ANC Youth League from 2008 until his expulsion from the party in 2012. Malema became a member of the ANC at the age of 9 and was elected president of the ANC Youth League at a controversial party conference in April 2008. He rose to prominence as an outspoken supporter of Jacob Zuma, then the ANC president and later the president of South Africa. However, Malema's relationship with Zuma grew strained after Malema was sanctioned by the ANC for various disciplinary infractions in May 2010. He campaigned for Zuma to be removed from the office ahead of the ANC's 53rd National Conference. Months before the conference in April 2012, Malema was expelled from the ANC for bringing the party into disrepute. While ANC Youth League president, he was an early proponent of proposals to nationalize South Africa's mining industry and expropriate land without compensation or policy positions that the EFF had inherited. As the founding president and commander-in-chief of the EFF, Malema was elected to a seat in the National Assembly in 2014. He was re-elected to a second 5-year parliamentary term in 2019. Malema was described by both Zuma and the Premier of Limpopo Province, Castle Matale, as the future leader of South Africa. Less favorable portraits paint him as a reckless populist with the potential to destabilize South Africa and to spark racial conflict. He has been convicted of hate speech twice, once in March 2010 for demeaning comments about Zuma's rape accuser and once in 2011 for singing Tubuli Bono in public, which means shoot the Boer. In 2012, Malema was charged with fraud, money laundering and racketeering. After numerous postponements, the case was dismissed by the courts in 2015 due to excessive delays by the National Prosecuting Authority, leading to perceptions that the charges were politically motivated. However, AfriForum announced in 2018 that it would mount a private prosecution of Malema on the corruption charges, and we've been waiting for that day ever since. Malema has had the mentality of destruction and crime from his teenage years, as in 1997 he became the provincial chairperson of the Congress of South African Students, also known as COSAS in Limpopo. He was then elected as national president of COSAS in 2001. In May of the following year, he led a COSAS students' march through Johannesburg. The march was marked by incidents of violence and looting. And to tell you the truth, Malema is a very educated person, as he obtained his matric from Muhlakeng High School in Seshego. In 2010, he then completed a 2-year diploma in youth development through the University of South Africa, known as UNISA. Also at UNISA, he subsequently completed a Bachelor's of Arts in Communications and African Languages in March 2016. He then obtained an honors degree in philosophy by the year 2017. In 2018, he enrolled in for a master's degree program at the University of Witwatersrand, also known as WITS. With what I've mentioned, you can tell that he's someone who has taken his education very seriously. Now let's get real. Following his expulsion from the ANC, Malema was a prominent figure in criticizing the government's actions during the August 2012 Marikana massacre.
I'm not shocked or disappointed is because what they are telling us now is what I've been expecting. And their newspaper reported that we are going to be expelled, and it became the reality. The newspapers are more informed than members of the ANC, than leaders of the ANC.
Visiting the scene of the shootings, he called for Zuma's resignation and the establishment of a commission of inquiry. Al Jazeera wondered whether the controversy over Marikana would help resurrect his political career. He also made controversial remarks during a visit to Zimbabwe in October 2012, saying that the white people in Africa had appropriated mineral resources belonging to the indigenous people and that compensating those affected by land expropriation would be tantamount to thanking them with money for killing our people. He even said, seeing blood is not what we are scared of. As long as that blood delivers what belongs to us, we are prepared to go to that extent, and that was said publicly. In June 2013, Malema began to canvass for his political party called the Economic Freedom Fighters. The South African President Jacob Zuma, at a meeting with the SA National Editors Forum, stated that the ruling party does not see this development as a threat. While still on trial for money laundering and racketeering charges, Malema started appealing for funds for the new political party. He even visited a Nigerian prophet, TB Joshua, for spiritual blessings in August 2013. At the party's National Elective Conference in Bloemfontein in 2014, Malema was democratically elected unopposed as president of the EFF. Floyd Shivambu, who was elected from the ANC Youth League at the same time as Malema, was elected his deputy. Both Malema and Shivambu were re-elected unopposed in December 2019. Malema has been ejected from parliament several times. In June 2014, he was ejected from the State of the National debates after he refused to withdraw a statement to the effect that the ANC government had murdered mine workers during the Marikana massacre. He and several other EFF members were ejected from Zuma's 2015 State of Nation address after they said loudly insisted that they be permitted to question Zuma about the Nkandla Gate scandal. Malema said in response that South Africa was a police state. In September 2015, he was forcibly removed from the house by the sergeant at arms and subsequently suspended for 5 days after refusing to retract the accusation that Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa was a murderer because of his actions during the Marikana massacre. He was forcibly ejected again during Zuma's State of Nation addresses in 2016 and 2017. In an interview with Al Jazeera broadcast in April 2016, Malema said that if the ANC government continued to respond violently to peaceful protests, they will run out of patience very soon and they will remove the government through the barrel of a gun. In response, the ANC opened a case of treason against him. At a political rally in November 2016, Malema said that the EFF was not calling for the slaughter of white people, at least for now. The opposition Democratic Alliance, known as DA, criticized his violent and threatening language. He repeated the sentiment in 2022, saying that he could not guarantee or he can't or won't call for the slaughter of white people at some point in the future.
We are not calling for the slaughter of white people, at least. That means at some future date, we may call for the slaughter of white people. Is that correct?
Let's deal with that at that future date. I don't know what's going to happen.
So you're saying you are not ruling out that in the future you may very well call for the slaughter of white people?
It may not be me.
Could it be you?
It could be me, yes, but it may not be me.
Yes, so it could be you. You could, at some future date, call for the slaughter of white people.
What will necessitate?
You tell me.
I don't know. Why would I do that?
You said you could do it in the future, is that correct?
I can't guarantee that I can't do it or I won't do it.
So right now,
So I'm
if I
not
asked
ruling
you
out
to
that
pledge,
possibility.
if I asked you to pledge, to say, I will never call for the slaughter of white people, would you make that pledge?
I will do it with ease.
Make that pledge.
Why would I do that?
I'm asking you to make that pledge.
I don't.
You said I will do it.
I won't do it.
Make the pledge.
I won't do it.
You won't do it.
Yes.
In 2018, at another rally, Malema referred to plans to remove Adol Trolli from his position as a mayor of Nelson Mandela Municipality, as plans for cutting the throat of whiteness. The A leader Mmusi Maimane labeled Malema's words racist attacks and racist hatred. Following the death of the former Zimbabwean President Robert Mugabe in 2019, Malema tweeted a number of controversial quotes by Mugabe, including, "The only white man that you can trust is a dead white man." The South African Human Rights Commission condemned the post and said they would sue Malema for spreading hate speech. During a 2021 session of Pan-African Parliament, Malema threatened to kill a Malian member of the parliament. On 11 November 2021, the day FW de Klerk died, Malema tweeted, "Thank you God," followed by 5 dancing figure emojis, which observers interpreted as a response to de Klerk's death. Malema later applauded the government's decision to not give de Klerk a state funeral. Now let's talk about what makes me think that he is just as bad as the leaders of South Africa and his evil doings that needs to be attended. Let's begin with Malema's involvement in the state contracts. Reports regarding Malema's possible involvement in state tenders began appearing in November 2009. A lot of questions about his personal lifestyle were raised by the South African media. Some analysts suggest that this is also known as being a tenderpreneur, which is the early emergence of a form of kleptocracy or predatory behavior by a clique in the ruling elites to generate personal wealth by capturing resources. In August 2010, the public protector released a report which cleared Malema of involvement in state tenders in Limpopo. The report was received with skepticism in some quarters, which means Malema did not suffer any consequences for his actions. A week after the tender scandal, journalists Pierre Rampedi and Adrian Basson were subjected to various threats and forms of intimidation while covering a story on corruption by Malema. In January 2009, Malema told a student gathering at the Cape Peninsula University of Technology that Kwezi, the woman who accused Jacob Zuma of rape in 2005, had a nice time with Zuma because she stayed in the morning to ask for breakfast and taxi money. Sonke Gender Justice filed a complaint in the Equality Court of South Africa, and on 15 March 2010, Malema was convicted of hate speech. He was then required to issue an unconditional apology and pay a fine of 50,000 rands to a center for abused women. In 2020, AfriForum again sued Malema in the Equality Court in connection with his singing Dubuli Bunu, as well as another struggle song called Biza Amafaya Brigades. In the years between the two cases, the Constitutional Court had made significant bounds in its jurisprudence on hate speech, superseding the 2011 judgment. In November 2022, the court dismissed AfriForum's complaints, finding that Malema singing the song did not constitute hate speech. The court accepted Malema's argument that the lyrics should not be interpreted literally, but in their proper historical context as a statement of resistance to land dispossession.
Litigated with AfriForum and Roots before, and they've never brought someone so weak as you. I think they've done the worst disservice to themselves.
Not backing down.
It is white people who must be ashamed of what they've done to us. You cannot turn tables now and want to blame me for the crimes committed by white people. It is a white regime that killed children in 1976. It is the white regime that killed children in the 80s and in the early 90s. It is white people who engaged in the wars of dispossession and forcefully took our land and our cows. Why can't you take responsibility? Why can't you for once just say sorry for the crimes we've committed against you?
Malema disputes claims that singing the song Dubuli Bunu encourages farm attacks. He argues that singing a song is different from giving a command.
We don't give a command through singing. When it is time to give a command, we'll give that command. And therefore singing will never be confused for command. It is what it is. It's a chant, it's a singing, and in African culture, singing is not taken in a literal meaning.
As proceedings continued, tensions rose.
Your parents have left you a bad name. So that is the context I'm using it. So please, if you are going to be a legal representative, you are going to have to reduce yourself from this case as an individual. Remove your emotions and deal with me as a professional. Because if you are going to come to me as a personal person, individually, I will no longer look at you as a professional. I will decisively deal with you as an individual.
During his testimony, he accused the AfriForum of playing victims.
A black child's trauma is not a trauma. We are still a traumatized nation, if you don't know. And that trauma is real. And don't push us to that pain. Because when that day comes, we'll not be scared. We've lost everything. We survive by the day. We don't know what tomorrow holds for us. I've elaborated. I'm not scared of death. I'm not scared of death. I don't know why I'm still alive. I died long time ago. I'm not scared of killing.
Malema says
White people stole our land. White people who came and settled here. Yes.
White people now are land thieves.
Yes, they remained land thieves. Yes, the land has not been returned into the hands of the rightful owners. For as long as you are in a possession of a stolen car, you remain a criminal.
Shoot to kill! Namasa! Shoot to kill! Kill them! Kiss the poor! The farmer!
the court continued.
While Malema was overseas at a friend's wedding in Mauritius in late October 2011, it was reported in various South African media that Malema faced various charges of corruption, fraud, and money laundering. These charges having been brought forward by the Special Investigative Unit, the Hawks. At the core of the allegations is the Ratanang Trust, a trust ostensibly set up by Malema and named for his son, with his son and the grandmother listed as beneficiaries, but allegedly is the focal point for repayments made by politically connected businessmen in return for lucrative state tenders, mostly in the undeveloped Limpopo region. Malema has denied any wrongdoing while various investigations continue. A warrant was issued for Malema's arrest in September 2012 on charges of fraud, money laundering, and corruption in relation to a government contract. The warrant was reportedly issued following an investigation into a tender awarded in 2010 to EDU Solutions to distribute textbooks to students in Limpopo. An investigation into the incident was launched by the Special Investigative Unit, SA Revenue Services, and the Elite Police Unit, the Hawks, following the discovery of damn textbooks near a dam in Guyana. On 26 September 2012, Malema was charged with money laundering relating to his awarding of lucrative government contracts in Limpopo in return for an alleged 4 million rands in kickbacks. After a hearing at the court in Polokwane, he was granted bail of 10,000 rands. In 2013, Malema faced different charges of tax evasions to the amount of 16 million rands after it was revealed that he was linked to companies that obtained other lucrative contracts from the Limpopo government. The case was based on payments made to the Ratanang Family Trust, but Malema reached a compromise with the Revenue Service in 2014. In 2016, the Revenue Service claimed that Malema breached the terms of the agreement and that he was owing 18 million rands for areas on his taxes, besides 2 million rands in interest for the 2005 to 2011 tax years. Malema countered that the Limpopo property deal did not go through and that he had settled all his debt based on the 2014 agreements and he owed nothing. In February 2013, it was reported that Malema's property would be auctioned off to pay 16.1 million rands in debt he owed to the South African Revenue Services after he failed to meet payment deadlines for unpaid taxes. Malema entered into a further deal to pay back the money. However, this deal collapsed in March 2015. After Malema failed once again to pay, how is it possible that every debt, case or scandal that Malema faces collapses? Let's talk about the 2018 Carney scandal. It was reported that party leader Julius Malema's family residence in Hyde Park, Johannesburg was owned by and located next door to controversial cigarette businessman and Carney company executive Adriano Mazzotti. Adriano Mazzotti served as the co-director of Carney, a cigarette manufacturing company that garnered controversy due to its alleged involvement in the illicit tobacco trade and illegal smuggling of tobacco products. Mazzotti donated 200,000 rands to the EFF for the party electoral registration for the 2009 election. And they said that the fellow Carney executive Kyle Phillips gave 1 million rands loan to Malema to get him out of tax troubles. Malema stated that his wife rented the property and laid a complaint against the media for publishing the location of his home. In discussing the issue of Cyril Ramaphosa CR17 funding, Malema spoke about the differences between the money received by the president and the cash donations that made their way into the EFF reserves. According to Malema, the party was fine to accept funds from a suspicious character because it never been criminally charged. That's what Malema said. Malema stated that he's not involved in Adriano Mazotti's businesses, he doesn't know what Mazotti is up to, but he knew where the money came from and accepted it with a clear conscience. He asked if we knew that Mr. Mazotti has ever been investigated or charged for any crime, then said he knew this before he accepted any money. Now let's talk about the other real deal. Let me talk about the VBS scandal that Julius Malema and Floyd Shivambu was involved in. The EFF leaders each received millions through a money laundering scheme, funds they used to prop up their glitzy lifestyle, their families, their businesses, and their political aspirations. Skeptics flagged Julius Malema's days of allegedly receiving laundered money from On Point Engineering, a company that received illegal government contracts in Limpopo in the 2010s. The NPA authority dropped the criminal case against Malema and have never taken it further ever since.
I've never spoken to VBS people. The person I know in VBS and do not know that much about that person is Matodzi, the chairperson of Valley, who was introduced to me at the party of the Bavenda King, So I've never had any dealings with them. This is very simple, Samgen. When a case is open, the Hawks have got access to all our forms of communication. They can even apply Section 205, get it from the judge, go into the history of our phones. In this case, they've done, by the way, with the VBS colleagues who are arrested. Nowhere will you ever find me in any form of communication with any of the VBS people.
So, I just want to be quite clear. So you are stating categorically that you have never enjoyed any of the money that was taken from, looted from VBS.
But that's it. You've got the platform.
It was the SA Revenue Services and then the Public Protector Thuli Madonsela who told us in 2012 that Malema was using his Ratanang Trust to receive questionable income to support his extravagant lifestyle. By then, it was already known that where Malema goes, his trusted sidekick Floyd Shivambu follows. Back then, Floyd already displayed a penchant for violence and the intimidation of journalists. However, civil society, the skeptics, the critics, other opposition parties and journalists found common ground with the EFF. The National Prosecuting Authority's bungling of serious charges closed the door on the on-point crimes prosecution. 6 years later, the EFF leadership participation in the fraud grew against VBS Mutual Bank, opening the line of sight on an ugly reality of corruption behind threats of violence and the treachery behind the professions of probity and fairness. Skopje journalist Polio van Wyk proved that Malema and Shivambu did change, but not in the way South Africans hope. Instead, Malema and Shivambu grew more adept at obscuring their divide. In the week, the EFF hounded former Minister of Finance Nhlanhla Nene out of his job. Van Wyk for the first time revealed that the EFF leaders and the party itself had benefited from the VBS fraud, using Shivambu's brother, Brian, as a front and bagman, while leaving crumbs on the table for him personally. Malema and Floyd Shivambu each received millions through a money laundering scheme, funds they used to prop up their glitzy lifestyle, their family, their businesses, and their political aspirations. Van Wyk revealed that SARS had initiated liquidation proceedings against Brian Shivambu, 2 companies which he used as a front to funnel fraudulent funds to his brother and the EFF leader. Brian Shivambu has now been asked by the Revenue Services to pay 28 million rands in taxes. Grand Azania and Gamega projects told the courts have been utilized by its director and only shareholder, Brian Shivambu, as vehicles through which he defrauded the VBS Mutual Bank of approximately 16 million rands. Attached to these liquidations applications in support of SARS argument before courts are 6 months worth of Shivambu's FNB Private Wealth Bank account dated 25 May to 24 November 2017. Van Wyck's forensics analysis stemming from her years-long VBS investigations highlighted important themes. The first proved that Floyd Shivambu, beyond a reasonable doubt, received at least 1.84 million rands in the VBS loot, which was washed through Scamega projects and the Grand Azania using 23 payments. Close to 2 million rands was channeled to the EFF2 bank accounts. The second theme is that in those 6 months, Shivambu received over 2 million rands more than his salary from the parliament. Here, he received around 44,000 rands per month, which along with the tree and hawk payments came to a total of 260 million rands. Shivambu never reported any additional income or assets to the parliament. It now appears clear that Shivambu received more illegal cash than only the VBS loots. The curious timing of these payments is the third theme. Hundreds of thousands of rands habitually hopped between VBS Bank, Scamega Projects, Grand Azania and Shivambu's FNB Private Wealth Bank accounts within days and sometimes hours of receiving the VBS loots. Van Wyck followed the breadcrumbs which led to the fourth theme. The 23 payments of VBS loots we could track right into Shivambu's FNB Private Wealth accounts were named repayment GAU, referring to Grand Azania wines. If we're sticking to the pattern and searching the Grand Azania bank statements beyond the 6 months in the FNB Private Wealth statements, we find 61 payments described as repayment GAU, totaling 4.269 million. We therefore have good reasons to believe that Shivambu received much more in VBS loots than we can trace beyond reasonable doubt at the moment. The fifth theme is VBS loots supporting Shivambu's family. His wife, Spesihle Phezi, received at least 555,000 in cash and the 400,000 rands deposits towards a Mercedes-Benz for her benefits was made. There is no evidence that Phezi knew she was the beneficiary of the proceeds of crime. More cash was spent on Shivambu's children for payments described as child supports, Floyd Shivambu and the names of his children. Shivambu's spending habits are the sixth theme. From his FNB Private Wealth account, Shivambu splurged about 800,000 rands, largely funded by the VBS loots, on items from Gucci, Louis Vuitton, Burberry, Fabiani, Versace, and Salvatore Ferragamo. All in all, VBS managers and auditors and business people as well as ANC politicians and EFF leaders stole more than 2.7 billion from the bank the VBS liquidator found. These people stole the money and the future of vulnerable people who trusted in VBS Mutual Bank. They stole the education of young people, the pensions of the old, and the lifeline of the poor. As the only members of parliament we know of so far involved, Malema and Shivambu's crimes are all and more egregious. Malema and Shivambu showed us they took careful notes in 2012 and came back smarter and more crooked, adept at using front companies to cover up their crimes. They don't scram at the idea of putting a brother in harm's way to act as their front and back man. Now slapped with a 28 million rands tax bill, Brian Shivambu may be criminally charged for his involvement. Just the repercussion of the SARS investigation and liquidation proceedings will have long-term legal effects on this ability to earn any illegal living.
Of banks. Where was the Reserve Bank? Why are you vindicating the authorities? Why are the authorities not implicated? Why is there no one in the Reserve Bank who takes full responsibility for this shenanigans? The second point I want to make is that why do we have a face of Brian Shivambu as a face of the VBS loot? When you've got the whole treasure of a province in Limpopo, when you've got the whole deputy chairperson of the ANC in Limpopo, when you've got the municipalities depositing money,
Floyd Shivambu had no regard for the endeavors position he put his elderly parents in when he manipulated bank managers into giving Brian Shivambu a property loan for a house for his parents to live in. SARS sees the loan for what it is, another way to steal, and now wants it sold in order to help pay for Brian Shivambu's escalating tax debt. What kind of people's representative are the EFF leaders? The electorate should ask itself. If they don't care about their own family, whose future they destroy, and even less about their community, the people who raised them, whose money they stole, did their followers swap one abusive relationship with the ANC for another? Ours is a very poor country that is sinking deeper by day. We need the dedicated, decent and competent people to lead us out of the doldrums. Crises like our current one sadly are an ideal breeding ground for the populist and budding autocrats. We must be aware of it and forcefully reject them. 10 years of Zuma should have proven to anyone the long-term damage corruption and cluelessness can wreak upon a country. EFF leaders are only the new and improved models of some conveyor belters, so with upgraded political chips and memory failures that allow them to worship Hugo Chavez, Robert Mugabe and Muammar Gaddafi. These are the dangerous people who cannot be trusted. After Van Wyk has proven beyond any doubt they stole VBS millions, how much more of our people's futures must they steal for the people of South Africa to realize Malema and Shivambu were in it only for the power and money, especially the money. Anyway, thank you so much for reaching the end of this video. The only thing I ask of you is to subscribe to my channel, hit the notification bell and stay tuned for more episodes based on the truth.